If you watch this to the end, you're going to learn some tricks that's going to help you overcome 90% of your anxiety and depression. We live in an age where everything is handed to us basically, and the world is so convenient. We're not having to go out and gather food or hunt or build things like all of our ancestors did, where they literally every day was like life or death. We can sit on our, comfortable couch or bed and air conditioned with our phones and order food with the tap of a button. And so a lot of the challenges we face today are not life or death as much as they are within our own minds. I truly believe that the human mind and will needs continuous opposition in order to thrive and grow. And because so much of life is handed to us today, we're not experiencing that daily opposition. And as a consequence, many people fall into complacency. And as a result, they fall into depression. They overthink things. They're anxious. They can't get themselves to be proactive and act in a way that's productive for their lives and the people around them. Just like a muscle needs resistance to grow, the human spirit needs opposition and resistance to grow and feel happy. People aren't getting that as much today, so we fall into these spirals and pits of depression and darkness, and all of the technology and stuff that's being continually fed, force-fed to us, is not helping at all. So I think that's absolutely one thing that if you're not already doing, you 100% need to incorporate this in your day-to-day life, is do things that are hard. If you're not doing things that are hard, like you're getting out of bed and pushing yourself in certain ways, whether that's physically, maybe you're pushing yourself mentally, maybe you have a daily exercise where you go climb the same mountain every day and it's like a mental battle because you're tempted to quit at each moment. Or maybe it's running on a treadmill for 30 minutes. It's so easy to just press the button to stop and step off. So the act of staying on the treadmill as it gets harder and harder and as you get more and more out of breath is literally callousing your mind and building resilience and character. The other thing I don't think people realize is you have control over your thoughts. Most people don't even truly believe that they have control over their actions. They just think that whatever they do is a natural response. It's like, oh, that's just how I am. That's just how I act. That's how I've always been. It's easy enough to change your actions and behaviors because all it requires is just willing your muscles and body to do something different. But the real challenge, where the real battle is fought, is within your own mind. People assume that thoughts that enter their mind, whether they're negative, positive, or just things that are happening to them, that they're stimuli that we don't have control over. I love the teaching of Stephen Covey, where he says that between the stimulus and our response to that stimulus is a space where we have the will and freedom and agency to choose our response. When you have a negative thought, that is a stimulus. You still have the choice of how to respond to it. You can choose to let it, drive you into a state of sadness and depression one day and basically take out your entire day. Or you can choose to turn away from it, push it aside, and replace it with a better thought. Once you realize that you have control over your own thoughts and you can literally begin to orchestrate the different patterns that enter your mind each day and the different kinds of feelings and emotions and intentions, whether they're virtuous or they're dark and complacent, that is the catalyst to completely being able to architect your life around you. If you are a slave to your thoughts, you will never be able to create a life that you enjoy, that is happy and fulfilling on a consistent basis. Because you're always going to answer to impulsive and negative thoughts that enter your mind, and you're basically a prisoner to those. You answer to them if you don't have control over them. You might be wondering, what's the way, how can I actually start to gain control over my mind? I think it's a few things. You want it to be easy to control your thoughts, which means your external environment, the way, the things that you are consuming, whether that's content on your phone or the food you eat or the kind of friends you spend time with. Are they uplifting or do they just drag you down and judge you and bring negativity to your life? Once you bring your external world into as much order as you can, suddenly there's a lot less friction to bring your internal world into order too. I can't remember his name. It was the writer of Atomic Habits, James something. But he said that before you try to increase your discipline, reduce the friction in your environment. Just make it easier. Go to a place where there's a bunch of natural light and where you feel happy. Don't just sit in a dark room all day. Stop scrolling through content that makes you feel weak and that drains you and makes you just feel icky. Get off that and make sure that your feed is filled with positive things that empower you. Stop eating crap food. Stop going and eating terrible food that brings your energy down. Eat things that are good for you. Get good rest. Stop staying up doom scrolling until 2 a.m. every day, where you have to wake up at 6:30 for work and only getting 4.5 hours of sleep. If you start doing these simple things and reducing the friction in your environment, suddenly practice of controlling your thoughts becomes way easier. Now let's say you're already doing those things. Let's say you're already really disciplined and yet you still battle negative thought. This is where it's really important to start to become really in tune with what thoughts are entering your mind. You have to be watching it as though you were an observer, as though you're watching a stage or a projector, and different actors and things are coming onto the stage of your mind at any given time. But you don't have to identify with those. You don't have to chase after them. You just observe them as they are. Every single person, regardless of how disciplined you are, is always going to have anxious or negative thoughts enter the stage of your mind. But if you go chase it, or you welcome it in and give it tea and crumpets or whatever the quote is, you're just empowering it to stay longer. Whereas if you just sit back and watch the thoughts pass through your mind, they are literally just visitors, and they will dissipate much quicker than if you try to engage with them or fight them or cling on to them. Learning to disassociate from negative thoughts and emotions and not identify with them is the first step of becoming mentally resilient. It's the same way you get sick. When you get sick physically, you're not going to start doing things and obsessively behaving in a way that's going to just perpetuate the sickness. You are going to do things that allow your body to rest and for the sickness to pass. It's the same thing with negative thoughts. They pass. And as you become more and more disciplined with this and observing your thoughts and letting them pass without engaging or identifying strongly with them, they pass a lot quicker. Then it's also a simple act of, when you have a negative thought, learn to replace it with a positive thought. Don't just sit there and let it claim you and drive you down. Literally get out of wherever you are. If you're sitting down, stand up, go for a walk, go talk to someone that makes you happy, give somebody a phone call that brings light to your day, go engage in a project that's meaningful, and sooner or later, that thought is just completely gone. You can literally start to cultivate only positive, constructive, empowering, and fulfilling thoughts and virtuous feelings and intentions within your own mind. It happens a lot more quickly than you think when you start to be intentional about it. There's a great quote that says, "A gardener does not reserve a plot for weeds." Strive to cut out all vices or unvirtuous thoughts from your mind that make you weak or that make you corrupted. Remember that there is a stimulus. When you have the thought, you have the choice of how to respond to it. It's not that you are, doomed to endure and basically suffer from whatever thought enters your mind. Now, I understand that there's certain people that have predispositions to experience more anxiety or depression than others. That's totally true. But that doesn't mean that you are a complete slave to those things. It means that you have more friction to deal with. And I truly believe that if more people were really intentional about how they construct their lives around them, how they govern their own mind and strive to do so in virtue and righteousness, that a lot of the pandemic of depression and anxiety and lack of fulfillment and complacency, it would start to dry up so fast that the world would become an instantly better place. But we're being binded down with this yoke of social media, consumption, comparison, complacency, all of the negative C's in the world. All it takes is the will to act and change the way you operate your life and govern your mind. And it takes the realization that you are in complete ownership over everything that happens in your immediate environment and how you act, as well as in your own mind. You don't have control over people around you. You don't always have control over the stimulus that enters your life, but you always have control over your response. And when you start to perfect your response to different things and different stimuli, that actually starts to affect the stimulus too. And you experience less of this opposition that is corrosive and negative. Through the practice of properly responding to opposition, you callous not only your mind, but your character. You become somebody worth following. You become someone who can live a fulfilling life regardless of whatever tragedies or obstacles are in your life. You can walk forward each day resiliently with consistency, and people start to be drawn to that. That's true and genuine leadership. That's someone who is developing a character that has substance, that people want to listen to and follow, that they will respect you more for it. You can literally be a positive impact in your community, your family, your immediate network, your office space, your workspace, as you do these things and as you implement these principles. You'll find that hypocrisies and negative attributes will start to burn off the more ownership you take over your own life and your own thoughts. And even if you have a perfectly constructed life around you and you're still dealing with inner turmoil, you've got work to do. Gandhi said that life is one indivisible whole. You can't live a double life where you're pretending to be super happy and disciplined on the outside, but within you're battling vices constantly and wrestling with negative and unvirtuous thoughts and feelings. You literally have the power to cleanse yourself of that. Now, I'm a Christian, so I believe that there is a higher power that assists with that and that makes it way easier. But regardless of whatever your belief system is, just recognize that you have free will. You have the power to implement these practices and heuristics into your life and claim a reality and a life that's worth living and that is fulfilling and rich to you. And as you do so, all the friction that you experience on a day-to-day basis starts to reduce more, and you have more power to do things that are fulfilling to you and create a positive impact and a ripple in your immediate world, in your community. You can choose to be the 1% of people that rises out of all of the slop and swamp of today's technology-enabled and social media-infested world and start to do more good. Claim a noble life. Be a hero. Be the hero of your own story and start realizing that it's completely within your hands to have such a life. And I promise you'll be happier. All right, cheers.